guys, welcome back to my channel. Today is going to be my TBR update from February. I actually set a TBR in February, which I never do, and then this will be kind of going over how I did I stick to it? I am notoriously bad at sticking to TBRs, and also my quick reviews of those books that I did get through. So I did stick to my TBR pretty well. I didn't read anything else that wasn't on my TBR, but I only got through 3 books, and one of them, woo, oh, it was something, not in a good way. So I will go over what I got through really quick, and then I'll go over my reviews. So I had 9 books on my TBR list, and I had All Quiet on the Western Front, Ninth House, All the Light We Cannot See, Fahrenheit 451, To Kill a Mockingbird, Enchantment of Ravens, Mistborn, The Man-Eaters of Tsavo, and ABC Murders. Okay, so the 3 I finished were All Quiet on the Western Front, ABC Murders, and All the Light We Cannot See. And then I started my reread of Enchantment of Ravens, and I also had already started Ninth House. So I'm like 4 or 5 chapters into both of those. Ninth House is not really working for me. I took a break from it because I felt like it was not going to be something I was going to enjoy. So I'm not sure if I'll get back to it. I plan on finishing Enchantment of Ravens within the next couple of days. Won't be a big deal. And then I have The Man-Eaters of Tsavo on my Kindle, so I will read that. I am planning on reading Fahrenheit 451. So the other ones I will get to, I will say, All the Light We Cannot See derailed my TBR so hard. It's not even funny. Like, it was so bad. I don't know why people like this book, but it is a very well-liked, very popular, very high rated book. So let's talk about that. I will go over the ones I liked first though. So 5 stars for me is going to be All Quiet on the Western Front. This book is so good and necessary. Not good and you're gonna enjoy reading it. It's a very, very hard book to read about war and these very young recruits who go into volunteer for the First World War. They're convinced by their teacher, and they join the war effort, and they're very young soldiers. They're in trench warfare, which is particularly horrific, and some of the scenes, the most gripping scene for me is the scenes in the trenches. It's very, very difficult to read, but this goes over everything that a soldier experiences, from their feelings about their fellow soldiers, the brotherhood, the close connection you have with those people in particular, and also how it feels when one of you is wounded. He's keeping track of all of the people that he was originally with and who joined up with him, and a lot of them aren't going to make it. It's really hard. So yeah, this book is a hard read. It's got a lot going on as far as the story of a soldier who is starting out young and fresh and having all this hope of, we're going to go, join this war and serve our country, and then seeing how bad it really is. And it's really bad. So this is a German soldier in the First World War. If you know anything about history, you'll know that does not end well. So it does a really good job of putting you in their shoes, showing you exactly how hard this life is. Then even when he's on leave with his family, how he can't fully immerse himself back in the person that he used to be. He's not that person anymore. And he has such a hard time being around his family and kind of accepting, that he's different and he's never going to probably be the same. So there's that. I'll give a quick spoiler that my favorite scene, and not in a good way, but the scene where he's in the trench with a soldier that he is stabbed, an enemy soldier, obviously, and the man is dying, and he is trying desperately. He has such remorse over this close combat kill. Not the man is dying, but not dead yet, and he's trying to keep him alive. It's so hard. His emotions, it's so raw. You feel like you're there, with him in the trenches. He is so devastated. He doesn't know what to do. He's a young kid, and he's laying next to this dying man, trying to keep him alive and feeling all this remorse for killing him, and it's horrible what war does to people, and especially these young soldiers who were in this world war in the trenches. And trench warfare is horrific. If you're reading these books, I will just say, like, I didn't realize how bad that is, but it does such a good job of explaining the psychological effects and of trench warfare and how bad it was. So 5 stars, highly recommend if you want a really good, hard, but necessary war book. All Quiet on the Western Front. Okay, so then Jurassic Park, which I did finish and I loved. I will say this is quite different. Not like the basic idea is very similar to the movie, but there are some very significant changes that Steven Spielberg made, which I think some were very good, some I don't like as much. But yeah, this is great. After reading The Meg, I'm kind of into this whole, monster / prehistoric, animals attack books. They're good. They're kind of like action films, very consumable, just for fun. But yeah, I'd say this is definitely like 4 stars for me. I like it. I will say one of the changes I think that was done really well from the book to the movie was the character of John Hammond. He is not likable in the book like he is in the film. He's not this lovable grandpa. He is definitely, I would say, along the lines of a very wealthy, but like also like showman. He's a super wealthy showman. He's got this maybe almost P.T. Barnum-esque like showmanship about him and the island and what he's going to do and what he hopes to accomplish. And he's not that like kind of, sympathetic, charismatic person that he is in the movie. So that was a change that I think is necessary for the movie, but in the book, it's like you don't care about him as much. Then the other thing that's different that I kind of didn't like and didn't understand, there's a couple things. They changed Grant and Ellie's relationship to they're not a couple, which I think is good. I prefer the book. I don't think there was much chemistry between, I'm sorry if that's like a big, if you really like that couple, whatever. But I didn't feel like there was much chemistry between them. They are a student and teacher in this. Grant is much older, Ellen Grant is much older, and she is much younger, and he says there's nothing between them. She's like got a boyfriend she's going to marry, and I prefer that. I actually prefer it. I think it works much better. And then the funny thing that they changed that I thought was really interesting was the Alan's feelings about children. In the book, he loves kids. He is super excited to talk to them about dinosaurs. Kids are very enthusiastic about dinosaurs, as anyone who has kids knows. And he likes them a lot. And in the movie, he doesn't like kids at all. So I'm not sure if that was a director choice to limit the amount of on-screen child actor time, just because it can be difficult with child actors. So maybe Steven Spielberg was like, oh, we'll make it so he doesn't like kids so that he has less screen time with them. But I'm not sure why he did that. And then the other choice that was really good for the movie was he aged up the kids. And actually, the girl in the book is young. She's like 6 or 7 years old. She's very annoying. She was not a bright spot in this book for me. And in the movie, she's obviously the older one. And Tim is about the same age. So I think that was a smart choice, because if this girl would have been in the movie, the young girl, you probably would have just hoped that she would have gotten eaten. A couple other things that were changed were some character deaths. I'm sorry, this is all kind of spoilery. I'll put it in beforehand that there's going to be spoilers throughout. So several characters are in the book that are not in the movie. Obviously, they kept it, much more confined. There's not as many people, and there's more people in the book that you have to kind of keep track of. And John Hammond dies at the end, as well as Ian Malcolm. Or does he? Because apparently he's in the next book. But in this, he is said to have died of his injuries. So he must be brought back by some kind of magic in the next book. So I guess Michael Crichton realized what he had with the Ian Malcolm character, which is great. Book to movie. I will say Steven Spielberg's casting was right on, like, perfect. Jeff Goldblum as Ian Malcolm is one of the high points of that movie, and I think this character is really good in the book too. So yeah, I like this. This is fun. good pacing, lots of action. The ending is quite different. I will say lots of scenes got switched from movies to movies. So like there's some scenes that are in the second film that are in this, and some scenes that are in the third film that are in this. So, I mean, they couldn't put everything in there, but the ending is different. It doesn't end with the big dramatic, them rushing out while the T-Rex is, at the entrance of the, main area, and the banner falling on the T-Rex and all that. That's different. In this, they actually are trying to destroy or count the raptor nests. They know that the animals are breeding. They want to make sure they know how many are there so they can be sure that they are killed. And then the military comes and rescues them. And as they're being carried off, they're seeing the island getting bombed to kill all the animals. So yeah, it's a little bit different, a little bit like darker, a little bit like, and then it's the final scene is Alan and the kids at a hotel just being kept there because they need to be questioned. And Alan basically being told, like, you won't leave. You're going to be here for the foreseeable future. So kind of a bummer, but I can see why the ending in the movie is better, in my opinion. Okay. All the light we cannot see. This is going to be difficult because I did not like this book. I didn't connect with the characters. I didn't connect with the story. And the problem is that I feel like this was a war book for modern audiences. Traffic. My issue with this, especially after reading All Quiet on the Western Front, which is a very, very well done book about war and the horrors of war, is that this book felt so sanitized and removed from the subject that I couldn't get into it. And I'm assuming that's intentional. The writer writes very well. It is a very well written book. It is very beautifully written, very beautiful language. Not much I can complain about the actual writing. The problem is that it feels like the author made the choice to set this during World War II, which is a very horrific time in history, shortly before the Germans take over France. So that's a choice. And if you're going to set a book in that time period and then kind of have a very sanitized version of the events, it seems, I just don't think that that's a good idea, in my opinion. It's just not, it didn't feel real. It felt very, very, very artificial. It felt like, a model, like if you've read the book, it's a model of something that's not like the real thing. It's you can look at a model of a city or a house and get the idea, but then it's nothing like the real city. And that's how I felt about this book. This is not historically accurate, in my opinion. It has a lot of things that you can tell the author wanted to write it in the same way. So the writing is very much the same. The tone is very much the same. And it flows like music. It's very well written, but it is not always, to me, consistent in its tone. And that's the problem. For the stuff that was going on, I needed more from it. It is about three kind of main ideas. So there's like the character of Marie-Laure, who is the girl in France. She's blind. She is with her father, who works at a museum. And he builds her these models of the city so she can find her way around. This is just the very beginning. This is a super long book, by the way, so just buckle up if you're going to read it. It's long, and I felt very tedious. So she is one of the main characters. She is blind, and she's, obviously having to deal with the Germans invading France. So then the other character is Verner. And he is, I hope I'm pronouncing these names right, I'll put them there. And he is a boy in Germany at an orphanage with his sister who gets recruited to basically work for the, are you allowed to say that? The German army. So, like the Nazis. I don't know if you're allowed to say that. I can bleep that. I don't know what I'm talking about. So, he's with the Nazis and he is being trained at this like camp with all these other boys. I feel like they wanted to make him a sympathetic character, and he kind of starts out that way. He's very smart. He's repairing radios. He has like this thirst for knowledge. He's very driven, but he feels like a very underdeveloped character, like all the characters in this book. And he is also very naive. You can't see him. My thing with him was he is constantly being told by his sister, kind of by those around him, how bad things are, and he's purposefully ignorant and kind of keeps himself in the dark so he can keep working for the Nazis. And yeah, he is eventually put in the position to track down radio signals for anyone broadcasting, and then he helps the military locate them, and they killed him. So this is who this kid is. He's I think around 15, 16 at this time, so he's not like 10. And I don't know, the redemption story for him I just didn't care about. Also, I'm going into some spoilers. This is just the basic plot. But there's the other part of the story, which is the diamond. And this is a diamond that is kept at the museum where Mary Laura's father works. And there's a legend about this diamond that whoever has the diamond will live forever, but everyone around them will have horrible luck. Like basically it causes destruction, chaos, calamity to everyone around this person. So of course, we know where this diamond is going to end up. And I just didn't care. I didn't feel like it added anything to the story. I felt like this is just boring. So Mary Laura's father flees to stay with, I believe it's his brother or his uncle. Anyway, they go to this house and they're staying there. The father has the diamond, obviously. Spoilers from here on out. He has the diamond, you know what's going to happen. He ends up getting caught, but he doesn't have the diamond on him, so he gets taken to a prison camp, and Mary Laura and her uncle are at this house trying to just survive. And there were elements of this story that I wish were explored. One of the older housekeeper who works at the house ends up starting kind of this like older lady rebellion with all of her friends where she's trying to thwart the Germans any chance she gets. And then she's also passing secret messages along. So I would have loved to have had like that be the center of the story, like a bunch of old ladies in their 70s, you know, taking on the Germans because they're, you know, resisting and they don't want them there. And also I will say for a book about World War II, there is one mention of a Jewish character in passing, but Jews are not mentioned at all. Like the name is not mentioned. Hardly at all. There's like I said, one passing character. Also, there's nothing about any kind of concentration camps, anything about people being killed. Like Mary Laura overhears her, the housekeeper talking to her uncle about how bad things are. It's very brief. And I don't like how sanitized this book feels, because I feel like with modern audiences especially, unfortunately sometimes things are sanitized to the point of removing a lot of the historical accuracy, the necessary brutality of that time period. I'm sorry, but this was not a good place to be. This is not a good time to be in. And the fact that it's so, because Mary Laura can't see a lot of things that happen from her perspective, she's hearing it. So we don't see anything. We're not exposed to any of the brutality. And it makes the story feel weak. In my opinion. Even the stuff with Verner where he's, you know, going around, it's told from his perspective. He's hanging back while they're taking people out. One of the boys gets beat up at school. Like that's one of the big, you know, difficult things that happens. But it's like for that time period, for that to be the worst thing is like a kid getting, you know, his head bashed in at school in a Nazi camp, like, you know, training camp. I'm like, I don't know. It just felt so meh. And I kept expecting more from these characters, more from this story, a deeper meaning, a deeper something. But I just felt like the author wanted to have it all removed. It was so, you know, you're looking at this story from a distance. It's not up close and personal. It's not in your face. It's not pushing you to realize, you know, these hard things about war and survival. It was just, yeah. So eventually, because of the radio signals, which Mary Laura's uncle is broadcasting to help with the resistance, their lives kind of intersect, and she meets Verner and he saves her, and then she ends up escaping and he ends up dying in one of the dumbest unnecessary kills. And then we kind of go to where his sister is, and this was, you know, towards the end. So the unnecessary death of him, like, it was such a weird, unsatisfying death scene that I didn't care about and didn't bring me any emotion. And then his sister is hiding out in Germany, I guess, and the Russian soldiers find them, and she ends up being assaulted by these men. This is told in the oddest way. Like I said, sanitized. It is such a weird way of writing about something that is obviously quite horrific. It's a quick scene. It's unnecessary. It's at the very end of the book. It means nothing to this story. She's not even a main character. She's a passing character that is in the beginning and then mentioned throughout because of her letters to her brother. But the author felt the need to put this in here and then not even make it what it should be when you're talking about these girls all being lined up and taken advantage of by these men. Like, it was, I just felt like it was so gross. And I felt like it was so unnecessary and so ridiculous to write about it in that way. Like, you don't sanitize these scenes. You don't put them in your books if you're going to sit there and go, well, and then they cried. Okay, like, that's basically it. Like, we know what's happening, but the author doesn't want you to have to deal with any of that. So it's just going to be thrown in there. And I just felt like it was so annoying. But yes, war is brutal. This book is not. The ending is super meh. I was so bored. I was so uninterested. I don't understand why this won so many awards. But like I said, this is my opinion. And if it was purely based on writing style, I will say that there's nothing wrong with the author's writing. He's a very good writer. So take from that what you will. But I was so frustrated with this book. Okay, so I'm carrying over, obviously, all of the books that I didn't finish. Shove those over into March, and then I will add to that TBR. Obviously, February was a very short month, and I did get very bogged down in All the Light We Cannot See. So I'm planning on sticking to the same TBR and then adding a few books in. There's a new book by Kate Stradling that I might add to my TBR, and several that I'm thinking about putting in for March. But I am definitely going to try and get to Fahrenheit 451 and some of the other ones that I wasn't able to get to from February. But I feel pretty good about where I'm at. I stuck with it. I didn't get sidetracked. I didn't like fall off the wagon. I want to thank Reading Nymph for inspiring me to stick to a TBR and to set a TBR, because she's very good if you watch her videos. Her TBR videos are really good and fun. Check out her videos. And yeah, thank you so much for watching, and please like and subscribe. Let me know what you're reading this month, if you have a set TBR, if there's any books you're looking forward to, and I will talk to you soon. Thanks. Bye.